Discover unbeatable deals and convenience at your neighborhood family fare supermarkets. Score exclusive deals, earn rewards, join clubs, and clip digital coupons for extra savings all in one place. Our exclusive offers bring savings straight to your card. Explore a wide range of local products that support your community. With easy pickup and delivery options, saving time and grocery shopping has never been easier. Family Fare is all about making your grocery experience easy and affordable at your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. Family Fare in your neighborhood.
Woodhouse Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is bringing you more this holiday season, finishing the year with big savings on the entire model lineup during the Wrap Up the Year sales event. Save up to $13,000 off MSRP on a 2024 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Laramie 4x4 for qualified buyers. Explore all our year-end lease and finance deals at WoodhouseCDJRBellevue.com or WoodhouseChryslerJeepDodge.com. This is Woodhouse. With approved credit, tax title license extra. When financed with Chrysler Capital. $299 doc fee to its signing. Stock number BC240134. Offer expires 12/31/2023. See dealer for details.
Bottom line is, even if you see them coming, you're not ready for the big moments. No one asked for their life to change, not really, but it does. So what are we, helpless? Puppets? No. The big moments are gonna come, you can't help that. It's what you do afterwards that counts. That's when you find out who you are. Freeze! You'll see what I mean.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Still Slaying, a Buffyverse podcast. I'm Penny.
And I'm Kara. This episode, we're going to be discussing Season 2, Episode 21, Becoming Part 1, directed by J.W. and written by Rob Deshotel, Dean Batali, J.W., and Marty Noxon. The original air date was May 12th of 1998. And this episode actually won an Emmy for Outstanding Music Composition for a Series, Dramatic Underscore.
Yeah, once I read that, when I watched the show again, the episode again, I was really, really aware of the music. Mm-hmm. And it is moving and beautiful music.
It really is. And I think one of the best parts about it is when you're not super cognizant of that fact, but once you start to pay attention to it, it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Very cool.
Fantastic.
All right. So I think we should take a step back to 1998.
Woohoo! I love that sound effect so much.
Me too.
So happy. Good old 1998. Let's see. I was about to leave 4th grade, and the number one song in the United States was Too Close by Next. I remember that song. And the number one song in the UK was Turn Back Time by Aqua. In the box office, Deep Impact is in the top spot, and Titanic has slid to number 2. Oh, I love Deep Impact.
Me too.
That's a fantastic one. And on TV, opposite of Buffy, at 8 p.m. were the same sitcoms we went over last time. And on Fox, it was World's Worst Drivers, caught on tape.
Yeah. I remember when Fox had a lot of that kind of content. It was pretty entertaining, actually.
It's kind of like YouTube before YouTube existed.
Yeah. Like America's Funniest Home Videos, like that doesn't really exist anymore.
Now it's just like TikTok.
Other places in the news, the former premier of Rwanda admits to the massacres that happened there. That happened on May 1st. And for some reason, even though he pleads guilty to genocide charges, he's getting life in prison and not the death penalty, I guess because of the plea bargain.
Yeah.
I'm opposed to death penalty, so that's a good outcome in my opinion.
Yeah.
The European, I think at the time they were called the European Economic Community. They weren't the EU yet, but they agree on a single currency on May 3rd. That would become the euro.
Oh, wow.
And this is a big one. On May 4th, the Unabomber was sentenced to 4 life terms in prison and an additional 30 years. And the judge said that Ted Kaczynski committed unspeakable and monstrous crimes for which he shows utterly no remorse. So he must still be serving time. I haven't heard an update on the Unabomber in a really long time.
He's still locked up. And last I read, still absolutely zero change or remorse. Wow. Freaking Ted Kaczynski.
It's amazing to me. His brother is the one that turned him in. And I've always wanted to sort of hear more from the brother about what that was like for him.
Ugh, I can't imagine. But then again, it would be difficult, but if I heard or had any knowledge that my brother was doing something similar, I would have no problem calling the authorities. It would be tough.
Yeah.
That's one of those where it's just how your life must be.
It's painful no matter what you do.
Permanently altered.
Yeah.
Oof. Lots of things going on in May of 1998.
Yeah. On May 5th, a judge barred President Clinton's effort to limit the scope of the special counsel investigation, ruling that the president cannot invoke executive privilege or attorney-client privilege to restrict the prosecutor questioning of his close advisors, lawyers, and other officials. So that was a huge blow to the Clinton administration. And then on May 12th, the day this aired, India was found to have conducted 3 underground nuclear tests. They admitted it nationally. I think they actually did the testing on May 11th, but May 12th is when it broke internationally, and it really escalated the strategic arms race between Pakistan and India and exposed India to possible U.S. sanctions.
After our last episode that we covered, we did skip a few, I think 3 episodes, so we can recap what was going on Buffy that we missed.
Previously on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
So first up, we had Killed by Death. This episode, Buffy is hospitalized with a severe flu that is sweeping through the children of Sunnydale. The hospital brings back traumatic memories from when Buffy was a child and witnessed her favorite cousin die in a hospital. She still feels guilty for not being able to save her. Suspicious deaths at the hospital prompt the Scoobies to investigate and eventually uncover a monster called the Kindestod, German for the child's death. And that monster absolutely terrified me the first time I saw
it. Still terrifies me. It's so gross.
So creepy. A demon that absorbs the life force of sickly children, making it seem that they died of their illness. Only the sick children can see the Kindestod, so Buffy infects herself with a concentrated flu virus so she can see and eventually slay the monster. The episode is about how a hero may carry guilt for failing to save everyone, but that Buffy needs to let that go in order to save anyone. That episode is... It's a good one if you're watching through the first time.
It's a great episode. There's some really fun Xander Cordelia moments where you can see that he's still in love with Buffy and he's just dating Cordelia because he can. But she has real feelings. And there's some fun Xander Angel showdowns in the hospital hallway. Yeah. And also, because Giles visits Buffy in the hospital, her mother is like, "Oh, you're here too." And I'm like, yeah, that's the appropriate reaction. Like, why is the librarian here?
It's like, you guys are super close to your high school librarian. And I do love, too, I think one of my favorite parts of that episode is they all bring gifts, and Giles' gift to Buffy is grapes.
Yeah.
While he's in the hospital.
It's like, thanks.
Yeah, it's like, so considerate. That's a good one.
We also skipped the next episode, I Only Have Eyes for You. The Sadie Hawkins dance is coming, and Buffy is not ready to participate. Meanwhile, a ghost is terrorizing Sunnydale High and seems fixated on Buffy herself. The way to get rid of a ghost is to figure out what unresolved issues are keeping them on Earth, then resolve them. In this case, the ghost feels guilty for killing his lover in a moment of blind passion, always wanting forgiveness and doomed to possess living people to reenact the tragedy over and over. When he possesses Buffy and his lover possesses Angel, the two are able to have a brief reconciliation, and Angel symbolically forgives Buffy for her role in his destruction, allowing her to finally forgive herself. Meanwhile, the evil love triangle gets a new home since the factory was burned down, and we find out that Spike can walk again, but he's keeping it a secret for now.
Ew.
This episode is about Buffy and her guilt and feeling guilty for her role in Angel losing his soul and needing forgiveness whether or not she, quote, deserves it. And there's a whole conversation about you don't forgive someone because they've earned it. It's an act of compassion. Mm-hmm. And sometimes getting that forgiveness is the only thing that can allow somebody to move on. And in this case, she needed it from someone who would never give it to her and jealous. And this ghost allowed them to have that moment. So she is able to sort of accept what happened with Angel and get ready to actually kill him this time.
That was a pretty powerful scene. And for those of you that may not have enjoyed how deep we went into stalking in our last episode, you should be very happy we didn't cover this episode because there's a student-teacher relationship in it that I know neither of us would have been able to contain ourselves.
I mean, the timing of it with all the like Mary Kay Letourneau stuff in the news is pretty funny.
Oh man, that's another good one. This next one is also one that I have a soft spot for because I was a swimmer.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yep. This one makes me so happy. So it is Go Fish. And in this episode, the Sunnydale High School swim team is on top and enjoying the perks of high school athletic success. But this is the Hellmouth, and all is not what it seems. As members of the swim team go missing, the Scooby Gang suspects a monster is hunting steroided out swimmers. Xander goes undercover and joins the swim team, really pleasing Cordelia. Oh yeah, she loves her some Xander in a Speedo and makes that clear multiple times in that episode. Yeah. The truth of what is actually going on is so much worse than steroids. The coach has been giving the team mystical steroids that eventually turn them into sea monsters. Buffy has to fight them off, defeat the coach, and not get eaten. Enjoy Wentworth Miller in a pre-Prison Break stardom role. He is pretty fun to watch in this episode. This episode really focuses more on Cordelia and is more about Cordelia than Buffy, and we really see the depth of her affection for Xander. Kind of like what you had mentioned in that last episode, we see that Cordelia definitely has real feelings for Xander.
Yeah, when she thinks he's turned into a sea monster, she's like, I'll do whatever I need to do to make your life work now that you're a sea monster. Like, it's so
sweet.
Ready to be there for him. It's impressive.
Yep.
And also, well, that's a spoiler. I won't say anything about that.
Yeah, I was like, yep. Oh, gosh.
Discover unbeatable deals and convenience at your neighborhood family fair supermarkets. Score exclusive deals, earn rewards, join clubs, and clip digital coupons for extra savings all in one place. Our exclusive offers bring savings straight to your card. Explore a wide range of local products that support your community. With easy pickup and delivery options, saving time and grocery shopping has never been easier. Family Fair is all about making your grocery experience easy and affordable and your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. Family Fair in your neighborhood.
Waiting to buy a home? The Churchill Mortgage team says now is a great time to buy. Waiting could be a costly mistake because when rates drop, new home buyers will flood the market, driving up home prices. Go to churchillmortgage.com for your free analysis and see how home values can outpace rates to help you build wealth over time faster. This is a paid advertisement. NMLS ID 1591. NMLSconsumeraccess.org. Equal housing lender. 1749 Mallory Lane, Suite 100, Brentwood, Tennessee 37027.
Woodhouse Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is bringing you more this holiday season, finishing the year with big savings on the entire model lineup during the Wrap Up the Year sales event. Save up to $13,000 off MSRP on a 2024 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Laramie 4x4 for qualified buyers. Explore all our year-end lease and finance deals at WoodhouseCDJRBellevue.com or WoodhouseChryslerJeepDodge.com. This is Woodhouse. With approved credit, tax title license extra. When financed with Chrysler Capital. $299 doc fee to its signing. Stock number BC240134. Offer expires 12/31/2023. See dealer for details.
Let's get into our main conversation about our favorite or most important or most interesting things that we enjoyed during the episode. Why don't you start?
Okay, the one thing that always, this episode is iconic for so many reasons, but the one thing that has always stood out to me in this episode and continues to bother me, each time I see it, is the depths of Angelus's evil intentions, and specifically how he was with Drusilla before he turned her into a vampire. Because, that one scene where we see her go into the confessional, where she doesn't know that Angel has killed, the priest, and he is taking his place in the confessional. And she's talking about how she has these precognitive abilities and these visions and sees things before they happen, and that her mom's saying she's cursed, and Drusilla is expressing her desire to be pure and good, and Angel immediately is just like, oh, hush, child, the Lord has a plan for all creatures, even a devil child like you. Basically confirming her worst fear, that she's evil. And just thinking about this seriously, and about how deeply held her religious beliefs are at that time, and how concerned she is to the point that she's in confessional and he is telling her that she is evil. I was like, that is some sick and demented shit, Angel. Like, that is just next level.
Up until this viewing, I had always thought that Angel went to that church to pose as the priest in the confessional to mess with Drusilla's head. But now I think he just happened to be at the church to eat that priest. And then this is when he learns about Drusilla and her visions. And he's like, because you can see on his face, he's like, oh, finally, something interesting.
It's scary, like how, and David Boreanaz does a great job. Like, his eyes light up. He is so intrigued by her. And it's like, ooh, a new toy.
Yeah.
Like, I could do a lot of interesting things with this one. And it's just so unsettling, that focus and obsession that he has. And I think it's excellent foreshadowing to the plans that he has for Buffy and the lengths that he'll go. And yeah, we already, we knew this, the whole talk about Valentine's Day and what Angel had done. But I think maybe this time around it's because we had talked about Catholicism, you and I, yesterday when I watched it again this morning. I was just like, damn, Drew, that must have been really intense for her.
Yeah, she must have been terrified. And then he's like, God is watching you, all creepy.
Yes.
And he's like told her she's evil and that, God has a plan and the plan is for her to be evil and she should just embrace it. And then she's like, please, I'm so afraid. And then he's like, okay, 10 Our Fathers and
10 Our Fathers.
Act of contrition. How does that sound? She's like, thank you. I'm like,
oh,
all right.
He's so sick. But seeing that play out, in the future with her and Spike and Angel and this plan with Akatha. And I do love that that one moment where Angel's like, wow, you could see all that in your head? And Spike's like, no, you ninny. She read it in the morning paper. Like, it's just...
And Angel looks so put out that Spike knows something he doesn't know. He's like, give me the paper.
Oh, yeah. He's pissed. But that little interaction between them just says so much about both of their characters. And as the show goes on and we see their characters develop and get more backstory, I go back to that conversation a lot.
Yeah. It's disturbing. One of the reasons this episode is so iconic and beloved is that we get so much Angel backstory, right? With all these flashbacks. There are some people online who are very put out that the numbers don't match. Like in season 1, at one point, Buffy is like, "You're like 240 years older than me," to Angel. And people are like, "That's canon, so these numbers are a mistake." And I'm like, that was an estimate.
Yeah.
Like,
she's just being hyperbolic.
Yeah,
and
she didn't know exactly what the number was, and he didn't correct her because there's
no point.
Saying he's older only makes it look worse. So he was shown in 1753 in England. No, in Galway, Ireland. I've been to Galway, Ireland, actually. I didn't have, a drunken assignation with a vampire in an alley, though.
Darn.
He seems to be kind of a jerk, right? He's like drunk. He wants to steal from his father. He lets his friend just fall in the street. And then he follows Darla into an alley and immediately propositions her, which is what she wanted.
Like, without Darla being a vampire, like, Angel's a creep.
Yeah.
Like, he established creepy, not great guy.
Yeah, he sucks. And she lures him with this promise of adventure. And you can tell that the reason he's a drunken lout is because he's bored of his life, right? He wants something more interesting. And so he goes for it immediately. So he's turned into a vampire in 1753. My estimate, just looking at him, I think we're supposed to believe he's like early 20s.
To be fair, if Julie Benz dressed like that tried to lure me into an alley, I would probably go.
Yeah.
She looked absolutely stunning in this episode.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that. I was like, damn, woman.
Elegant and intriguing, and she's so flirty with him without being overt. Well, without being super
he was a goner.
overt. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does like blondes. We
true.
assume that he spent the next 100 years, tormenting Europe with Darla. And then the next time we see him is 1860 in England, the scene we just talked about with Drusilla. And then he is cursed in 1898, conveniently 100 years before present day Buffy.
I do like how that works out.
Yeah, it's nice and neat. And then we don't see what happens after that until 1996, almost 100 years later. Although Whistler says 90 years, I think he meant 98 years. Anyway. Whistler finds him eating rats in an alley in Manhattan. Angel he calls him skin and bones, but Angel looks large and healthy in that shot. Yeah. I'm like, they could have done a better job of making him look gaunt. Like, you can do things with makeup and stuff.
Like some contour to hollow out his cheeks or something like that.
Dirty up his face. Like, he's so pretty. Yeah. And he just looked like a pretty guy who, likes camping and is, a little bit grubby.
That's true. He's still pretty impressively, fit and large.
And he's a big guy. So for tiny Max Perlich to be like, "You're skin and bones," is ridiculous. So 1998 minus 1753 is his vampire age is 245. And so his, total age, I guess, is 265, 270 at this point in the show.
Man,
it's worth keeping track of how old he actually is. It's just sort of interesting.
Yeah. I always like to have a gauge on that. And speaking of, so Whistler, no matter how many times I see this episode, it still kind of throws me off at the beginning hearing his voice because of how much he sounds like Seth Green to me.
Yeah, he does a little.
Every time I'm just like,
why is Oz narrating?
Yeah, and I was like, no, wait, that's not what it is. But I think he does, I really enjoy him in this episode. And I guess this is not super spoilery trivia. In the spinoff for Angel, he was originally supposed to be his kind of, sidekick. but then that actor wasn't available. And I kind of still, I think about how that show would have been different if Whistler had been along for the journey in season 1.
It's funny. I don't like Whistler. I find him sort of hammy and
he is hammy.
irritating. I agree with Angel when he was like, I want to be a person like you, but I don't want to dress like you. I'm like, yeah, that hat is dopey. He looks dumb. There's a scene in there where he gets a hot dog from like a street cart. And until I watched this weekend with subtitles on, I always thought that when he orders the hot dog, he said dog meat. And I was always like, that's gross. Like, to call a hot dog meat is gross.
Oh.
But what he actually says is dog me, like, give me a dog. And I'm
that's
like,
douchier.
I'm like, yeah, but dog meat is disgusting, and dog meat is just kind of like, that's what people said at the time. It was always like beer me, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say beer me is one that sticks out.
Yeah, that was big in the 90s, and so dog me, at least it helped me get past the feeling I had about this particular character, that he was just like disgusting. Now I'm like, oh, okay, he's just kind of a doof. But
it's an odd choice of a guide figure, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's not your typical character in that role. But I do love...
Yeah, they missed an opportunity to have a mystical Negro or a mystical Asian person.
Oh, God.
That'd be so
like,
90s.
At least they went with, like, a typical 90s, like, douchebag instead of some sort of horrible racist trope. So, check one there. But I'm a sucker for any time we get these flashback episodes or any sort of flashback. And this one really is so interesting to me because I do think it's funny that we see that Angel has really kind of always been a bit of a creep and a lurker.
Yeah.
And when he is, seeing Buffy for the first time and he sees her face, I think David Boreanaz does a very good job in that moment. And he just seems instantly intrigued and enthralled by her. And I don't know, it shows you how he was before, this kind of pathetic creature eventually evolving into dealing with the ramifications of having a soul and what he did when he didn't have a soul. And every time it just makes me so much sadder to see where it's gone and what Buffy is currently having to face with him. But I think he just does a great job in this episode. Minus the Irish accent.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible.
That's painful every single time. But other than that, I think David Boreanaz does an excellent job.
He does. But I am so, cranky with Angel about how he is trying to ride Buffy's coattails to redemption. Right? He's like, I want to help her, and I want to be a person. And it's like... Oh,
wrong reasons.
Okay, but first of all, you have this immediate infatuation with her. That's creepy.
Because she's
15.
prettier than the last Slayer. Yeah, it's very creepy. Yeah. The Master said something too. That always bugs me. Like, the Master made a comment in season 1 about Buffy being prettier than the last Slayer. And I think that's a little bit of JW coming through.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. But it is creepy and the fact that she has that sucker, that lollipop.
Yeah.
When they flash back, that just gives me...
Although, that was also huge in the 90s.
It's
people
true.
were constantly sucking on lollipops. It was huge in New York City because of the club scene, and, it was if you took ecstasy, then you would want a lollipop to
rave.
Make sure that your mouth stayed hydrated or whatever.
I had blow pops so that is all, but I had blow pops all the time, not because I was in the club scene at age 10, but I loved blow pops.
Yeah.
And all that, and ring pops, all that kind of thing. But for some reason with this, and it might be just because of the influence of knowing what happened with JW later on, where I'm like, ew.
Yeah, it's a little sexual. And And the character's meant to be 15 or something at that point, and it's uncomfortable, but it's also realistic.
She can't drive.
I go back and forth about that.
Yeah. If before anything came out about, JW, and before I got into, a profession where I see all of these, sexual predators all the time, it did not bother me in that way. When I watched it in college, the first time that I really sat down and watched everything through, I don't have any memory at all of being creeped out by the lollipop. So I'm sure that is 100% me projecting now.
Well, we feel very maternal about Buffy, right? Like, we know what Angel's gonna do to her, and we see this moment where they meet, and like part of you wants to be like, get away from my Buffy, like, just like, she doesn't need you, you're a creep.
You just gave me a little epiphany there by saying we feel very maternal about Buffy. That is, I couldn't put my finger on the differences in how I feel now at 35 watching it, as opposed to when I was, I think I was 20 when I was renting all the DVDs on Netflix and going all the way through. But there's like this maternal protectiveness now that comes in, where I am not relating to Buffy so much anymore when I was, a few years out of high school, and now I just kind of want to protect her from the creepy old man who's lurking at the high school.
Yeah. Ugh. So after I watched this weekend, the episode, I went back and watched a few episodes from season 1. I watched the pilot and The Harvest, which is episodes 1 and 2, and then I watched Angel, which is episode 7, because I just wanted to see sort of how his story and his demeanor had changed over time. In the first episode, in the pilot, I know they didn't know yet that he was going to be a vampire. And so they were sort of leaving things murky on purpose. He's also wearing the most ridiculous outfit in the pilot. It's like a shiny velvet blazer. It just makes him look like a Las Vegas magician, but not like a big Las Vegas magician.
Like a cheap one,
like a hotel bar magician. And he's so weird and like cryptic whenever he talks to Buffy. He'll be like, you need to be ready for the harvest. And then he just like walks away. I'm like,
it's very helpful, Angel. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And then the way that she finds out that he's a vampire is that they kiss, and that like triggers his bumpy face. I don't know. It's still so creepy to me. I was trying to be like, see her fall in love with him, and I'm like,
yeah. It's difficult.
It's difficult.
That's for sure. But I do like the backstory. It's almost hard to digest, especially your first time through watching.
There's so much.
Just how much and how dense the material is and how much backstory we get. And, we do see Buffy in her element before she knows that she's the Slayer, before her life is forever changed, and she's essentially, the queen bee, the Cordelia at her old school. And we had heard references to this throughout the first couple of seasons, but seeing it, you see, all these other, little blonde teenage girls around her that are basically hanging on her every word, and she's talking about this boy basically begging her to go to the dance, and she's just, she's wearing this big pink fluffy coat. Like, she's so innocent. And as she's saying bye to them, with her sucker, and she's like, call me. It's so like, cute. It's just, it's precious. But seeing that, seeing how she was before she found out her destiny. And that scene's great too. Do we get a name for him? Merrick, that's right. I always forget. But when he approaches her on the school steps and mentions a destiny, she's just like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a destiny. What are you talking about? And watching the changes she goes through, watching her go out on patrol, learning the ropes, and seeing her parents fight when she gets back. Like, it breaks my heart every time to see how vulnerable she was and how alone. Yes, because by the time we see her in season 1, she's dealt with some shit. Like, she's gone through a lot. She's accepted it. She's kind of toughened up and hardened. And seeing her so vulnerable and innocent and everything changing is just pretty impactful. And we've talked about this before. Sarah Michelle Gellar does an excellent job portraying that vulnerability.
Yeah.
Something about like the way she holds her lips, or so like that pouty.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's just,
she does something with her eyes. They like well up and get like not teary, but like just before teary. And she softens her face. It's an amazing performance.
Really?
I was looking at pictures of her on Instagram today. She had posted this funny series of pictures of herself waiting for her daughter to be done with a dance recital. She's like, portrait of a dance mom. And she's like, why is it always so late at night? I'm so tired. Oh, and it was so funny to me. I'm like, oh, she's a mom. Like, it's
precious.
Like, Buffy's a mom now. She still looks freaking amazing, by the way.
She really does.
Yeah.
They're all aging fantastically.
Yeah, they look great.
Good. She seems like she and Freddie, this is a very small tangent, she and Freddie Prinze Jr. seem like very sweet, genuine people.
Yeah, they do.
I've always liked them. It makes me feel better about liking this show, honestly. The cast all seem great, minus good old JW.
And there's some allegations about Nicholas Brendan, but I think it's mostly booze related.
Yeah. He's the only one that I think I've ever seen anything really at all negative pop up.
Yeah, the rest of them seem to be lovely people, and mostly all still like on good terms with each other. They all seem like happy to see each other. Like some of the press around that new radio play Slayers, like they're all like, it's so fun to be back together. Like they seem to be
kind of heartwarming,
happy to be together without JW. They're like, this is the best.
Oh yeah. Well, and I was just thinking more about Angel being a creeper when we see Buffy in that flashback in LA, and we see her, come home after that night in the cemetery, staking her first vampire, and Angel is in the shadows watching her argue with her mom, watching her, cry in the bathroom as she hears her parents arguing about her, and it just makes it creepier to me.
Yeah.
How he follows her to Sunnydale and is kind of romantically linked to her because she is so young.
And he is such a stalker.
Yeah, it's just like, man, and that whole, like, when it makes me laugh every time. It's not supposed to, but when he does roll up in that old, what is it, like a Chevy Impala, and rolls down the window so he's not like completely out in the sun, he just looks like such a creep.
I know. He really reminds me of the McConaughey character in Dazed and Confused.
Oh yeah, they keep, what is that? I keep getting older and they stay the same age.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Gross. But way worse because he's like 200 years older.
Right? He's not like 22 or something.
Yeah. So gross. Let's talk about Acathla, or Alfalfa, as Buffy calls him.
Or Al Franken was another one.
There's so many things to talk about with Acathla. First, there's the like incompetent archaeologist at the museum who needs Giles to come in to tell him that there's like a seam on the rock and that it opens.
The high school librarian is their go-to for like translate, which fine, Giles is brilliant, I accept that, but it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's like, what are you
there's nobody else
doing at a high school? Yeah, so Angel and Drew go steal the obelisk, or I don't know what to call the thing, the Acathla box. How does Angel know so much about Acathla when like Giles needed help from some other watcher who doesn't have a phone apparently? He knows so much, and he knows like what the ritual is. And I was like, oh, maybe they finished like uncovering the runes and he could read it, but like they're still all covered up. So I'm like, he didn't read the ritual. How does he even have any idea what the ritual is to get whatever? All right.
Yes, there's a lot that
suspension of disbelief.
If you really think about it with a Cathla and that little subplot, there's a lot that can start to unravel and bother you.
It doesn't make any sense. The real thing that bothers me, though, is like, why would Angel and Drusilla want to suck the entire world into a hell dimension? Like,
right? What good comes from that? Drew is a bit delusional and not always, the most realistic, rational planner. But with Angel, I'm just like, okay, then what?
Yeah, like, okay, you're all going to be in hell. Humans are all going to get killed. And then what are you going to eat?
Yeah, are you just going to fight each other to the death? And that line that he says, when I love that reveal when he shows Spike and he's like, oh, it's a big rock. Can't wait to tell all my friends. They all don't have a rock this big. Like, he's such a dry,
I love Spike so much.
ass. But like, and he gets onto Spike for not learning his history. And canonically, I would expect Spike to know more about a Cathla than Angel. And maybe that's influenced by slightly spoilerly developments later on in the series, but Angel kind of schools him on a Cathla, saying,
convenient exposition. Yeah.
Right. Like, the demon came forth to swallow the world. He was killed by a virtuous knight who pierced the demon's heart before he could draw a breath to perform the act. A Cathla turned to stone, as demons sometimes do, and was buried where neither man nor demon would want to look. Unless, of course, they're putting up low-rent housing and, like, making a joke. And as he explained that, I was like, okay, but why would you want to look for him? And we find out that essentially someone has to, it's kind of Sword of the Stone. He has to pull out the sword and it has to be somebody worthy. And Spike says, the demon wakes up and wackiness ensues. And Drusilla points out that he swallows the world and they go into this hell dimension. And Angel's last line with that is, my friends, we're about to make history end. And every time I hear that line, I just want to be like, but why?
Yeah, like, why? And Angel, you're right. Drusilla is totally in character here, right? She's like, ooh, a demon that sucks the world. Let's do it. Fun. Do it again.
End of the world.
Yeah. And I totally understand why Drew and Spike wanted the judge, because that's just like a lot of weaponry, right? That's like strong, lots of power. But this, like, it just seems like a left turn for Angel to want this when he's so happy, like, tormenting Buffy.
That's the thing. It would get rid of all their fun and their food.
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever. And why Angel thinks that he would ever be the worthy person? Like, dude, you're an evil vampire and you think blood is gonna make you worthy? And he has this whole pretentious speech about, watch me as I ascend, watch me as I become.
Spike? Spike, my sweet, the fun's about to begin.
I will drink. The blood will wash in me, over me, and I will be cleansed. I will be worthy to free Akathla. Bear witness as I ascend, as I become. Everything that I am, everything that I have done has led me here.
And I guess they wanted, I guess they wanted something big for the finale, like some sort of, it's kind of a joke almost later on, all the apocalypses that they face.
This is number 4.
Or potential apocalypses. Yeah. So I guess season finale, do something big into the world, send everyone into a hell dimension sounds nice and scary and dramatic.
Literally sucked into hell then. Great.
Yeah. It's like, that sounds terrible for y'all too.
Yeah, and you're the first ones. Like, you're standing right in front of the demon. You're going down first, man. Like, it's gonna suck you right in there.
But, and I mean, I guess partially too, there had to be something in the plot to get Giles involved and them needing to, you know, kidnap somebody in the Scooby Gang and raise the stakes. And I can accept that with Giles. We know that we see it, that he has this knowledge throughout the series. He's very knowledgeable about all of these relics and monsters and demons of the past, and they remind us of that conveniently with the museum scene.
Yeah. He's kidnapped at the end of this episode. Knocked unconscious, of course, because Giles is always knocked unconscious. People get knocked unconscious on TV so often, and I know. I have a lot of family with concussion problems, and so now I'm super aware of it, and I'm like, oh, that's a concussion. Oh, that's a concussion too. Like, you need time to heal. Like, it just
yeah, him being kidnapped is really does raise the stakes. It does. Obviously. A lot of things in this episode I feel like are geared to just amp everything up as high as it can go before the final episode of the season. And they're pretty successful with it. Like, it's tension building. And I, you know, every time I watch it, no matter how many times I've seen it, I still feel that anxiety going into part 2. Yeah. So I can forgive them for a Cathla not entirely making sense.
Kendra is such a missed opportunity of a character. She just doesn't have very much personality, and she's also a crap fighter. Like, when those vampires come in, Drusilla and 3 minions, like, Kendra should have been able to take out all those minions. Maybe not Drusilla, but, like,
Buffy could
have. And also, so Kendra loaned her favorite steak, Mr. Pointy, to Buffy. And, spoiler alert, Mr. Pointy sticks around for the rest of the series. And then she's left in the library to, like, guard the group while they're doing the spell. But, like, she doesn't arm herself. Giles has an entire arsenal in the library, but she's not holding an axe or a stake or a sword. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, she could have gone through Giles's everyday weapon collection and picked a couple things. And, you know, everything with Kendra really bothers me, honestly. Like, the accent's not even
but
the worst
when
thing.
Buffy mocks her accent, and I know it's done lovingly, but I'm like, ouch, painful.
Yep, I was like, nope.
Oh, that's so painful.
Make it stop. And, you know, the whole thing with, you know, like you're talking about, she doesn't grab a weapon, like she's there to guard these people, and we know that Angel and Spike and Drusilla on their own are all extremely capable fighters.
Yeah.
Drusilla has this voodoo ability, apparently, or quote unquote.
And they know that vampires can enter the school anytime they want, right? Why they keep meeting in the library and not someone's home is beyond me.
I know.
Because it's like
Giles has space.
Yeah.
Books. But Kendra, you know, seeing her come to an end with Drusilla, and Drew kind of, you know, enchants her.
Yeah, that part is cool. The hypnosis scene is really badass.
It's brilliant to me because, well, one, Drusilla, I love her. She's fascinating. And the fact that she has these skills outside of brute strength as a vampire is always going to be interesting to me. But I also like how simplistic it was, that it wasn't some huge battle that Kendra dies in. She didn't come out the hero, Drew, enchants her and slits her throat with an impeccably manicured fingernail.
Very nice red French tips.
Yep. So just kind of cool.
And elegant.
Gruesome. Yes.
Although I was like, isn't Slayer blood like a delicacy in the vampire world? Like, wouldn't she at least taste it?
Right. I was like, Drew, what are you doing? Like, come on. But I think it also really relates to real life in terms of the ways that people go sometimes. Like, there are heroic deaths and there are deaths that seem absolutely silly and tragic, and it's in an instant. And Kendra being killed in that way, I think, was incredibly impactful, way more impactful than it would have been if she and Drew had had some long, drawn-out physical altercation, and, you know, she ends up
it makes Drew
being
so
killed.
much scarier. Because it's like, if she could do that to a Slayer and so easily kill her, like, what else is she capable of?
Mm-hmm. She's powerful. And
crazy.
Terrifying. And I know that Kendra is not one of our, you know, main everyday characters, but her being killed along with Ginny Calendar being killed, you still do get the sense that we could lose people who have been around and who are important to us.
Yeah.
Especially knowing, you know, that this was only the first half of the season finale. It's just like, holy shit, like a Slayer's dead. Like, now what's gonna happen?
And the running shot of Buffy when she's running in the school and it's in slow motion and she goes around that corner where you can see her body at an angle. She's running so fast. Mm-hmm. Is so iconic. It's been in the opening credits of the show ever since. And it's the picture
seared in my brain.
It's the picture that is often accompanying like articles about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like, that's a favorite image from the show. It really is iconic, and the slow motion makes it so amazing.
Seriously. It just I'm stuttering because I can't come up with words with how amazing the end of this episode is. And just Angel and Buffy fighting, and you can kind of tell, like, he's just toying with her, like, letting things play out.
That fight is hilarious because they're both trying to just, like, play for time. And and he's like, is it me or is your heart not in this? And she's like, no, I'm ready to kill you. And like, you can tell that she's really hoping that the curse will work. And it's
like, come on, Willow, come on.
She doesn't want to have to do that thing. Like, she doesn't want to kill her lover, even though he's, you know, soulless, evil fiend.
Oh, that's this. We have not talked about the Scooby discussion about killing Angel yet, because that is, you know, that's pretty huge, and I would love to hear your opinion on it too, because I find myself still getting annoyed with Xander, and I don't know what it is, because I think objectively speaking, he has some very solid points. Clearly, like, Angel does not, you know, he doesn't have a soul right now, so obviously he doesn't want his soul to be restored. He killed Miss Calendar in cold blood because they figure he knew that she was trying to restore his soul. You know, in an episode that we talked about earlier, in Killed by Death, Angel threatens Xander, and there's this whole discussion about Angel being able to get to Buffy if he really wanted to, and Xander kind of stands up for him and is like, you're not going to touch her while she's in here. And he's gone through a lot with Angel, and Angel has thrown everything out of whack for them. They're worried about Buffy's mom. They're all worried about their pets, their families, like being in their cars without him, you know, popping up to try to kill them or torture them to get to Buffy. So I understand, objectively speaking, where Xander's coming from, where Cordelia is coming from. And, you know, Giles is also conflicted. But at the same time, I just feel so much for Buffy because she knows what Angel is like in his true form, basically, when he does have a soul. She knows what he's capable of. She loved him. She lost her virginity to him. And there, right in front of her, is this opportunity to get that man back, to get that person back. And every time Xander is arguing that he's gone, we need to just kill him, there's just something about me that's like, shut up, Xander. Like, give him a chance. Let them try this.
Hi, for those of you who've just tuned in, everyone here is a crazy person. So this spell might restore Angel's humanity? Well, here's an interesting angle. Who cares?
I care.
Is that right?
Let's not lose our perspective here, Xander.
I'm perspective guy. Angel's a killer.
Xander, it's not that simple.
What? All is forgiven? I can't believe you people.
Xander has a point.
You know, just for once I wish you would support me, and I realize right now that you were, and I'm embarrassed, so I'm gonna get back to the point, which is that Angel needs to die.
Curing Angel seems to have been Jenny's last wish.
Yeah, well, Jenny's dead. Don't you ever... Can't you hear what I'm saying?
Xander, stop it! Stop it! What do you want to do?
I don't know. What happened to Angel wasn't his fault.
Yeah, but what happened to Miss Calendar is. You can paint this any way you want. But the way I see it is that you want to forget all about Miss Calendar's murder so you can get your boyfriend back.
What bothers me is that Xander's hatred of Angel and his hardline stance on Angelus is sort of equal parts vampires are evil and I want Buffy for myself.
Yes.
And that's
the jealousy.
That's what bothers me about Xander. I think also his sort of he did that thing that I hate that people do in arguments where they take things to their most ludicrous extreme, right? He's like, you just want to forget all about Miss Calendar's death so you can have your boyfriend back. Yeah. And Buffy's like, that's not what I said. Like, that is not at all what the plan is. Like, if we curse him again, he won't pull the sword and then we won't all get sucked into hell. And then whether or not I have a relationship with him going forward is so complicated. I can't predict how I'm going to feel. Like, that's crazy. But this is a short-term, like, good thing that we could do. And Xander just can't see past his jealousy and hatred.
Yep. He's purely jealous of him. And Cordelia, poor Cordelia, she doesn't quite see how, I mean, she knows on some level, she's mentioned it before, his infatuation with Buffy and how he prioritizes Buffy. And she backs him up in this scene. And he goes like, just once, I wish you'd have my back or support me. And he's like, and I realize that's what you're doing.
And I'm embarrassed.
So I'm going to shut up. But
that's a classic Xander speech because it's funny and self-deprecating and also kind of mean. Like, it's
it broke up the tension rather nicely. But you're right, the jealousy aspect of it, I think, is probably what sits wrong with me, because it's not some principled stance he's taking on the dangers of Angelus and what he's done. He's like, well, you just want your boyfriend back.
Yeah.
That's his whole summary. Whereas Giles, I think, is approaching it in a much more realistic way where, yes, he's of course hurt by what Angel has done and, taking Miss Calendar from him, but he cares about Buffy. And he also can recognize that it's a good point if they are able to get his soul back into him. His whole motivation for waking this demon and sending everyone into a hell dimension disappears. So it's the most practical
and it's
approach.
A long distance thing too. They don't have to risk their lives up close and personal with him in order to try this plan. I love that Cordelia's like, why not wait to see if it works? See if he phones you. She's so practical.
Yeah. I love Cordy. Well, and Willow, I do like this too, where Willow kind of takes charge and she does have a voice. We see her and Buffy kind of stand up a bit for what, they're thinking and what they believe in. She's been looking at Miss Calendar's stuff. She's been studying black magic. I almost said the dark arts.
For educational fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's getting into that. She's preparing. She recognizes the risks at this point, I think. And I do love that Buffy and Willow kind of come out on top in this one because it shows their strength and the influence that they have over the Scoobies. But I think they make great points. Like, what is the harm of Willow trying? Especially because, Giles just happens to have an orb of Thessala as a paperweight.
How convenient.
Which is a wonderful throwback to Passion with the magic shop owners. Like, oh yeah, I've been selling those as paperweights. I love that. Might be one of my favorite callbacks.
It's a good one
in the series.
It's pretty funny.
But that whole argument is really fascinating to watch
and painful. And Buffy clearly feels very betrayed by Xander's harshness and his position, where he has no compassion for her position at all. He just is
no empathy.
Yeah. He's angry and he's aggressive immediately.
I have stuff to say about that, and I'm sure you do too in the spoiler section.
Yeah.
But it just, every time I just want to be like, shut up, Xander. Take 2 seconds to not be selfish here.
Yeah.
Because some of the things he's saying don't automatically come across as selfish, but his motivations are entirely selfish.
Yeah. He's possessive,
especially
of Buffy, with no grounds to be. She has flirted with him a couple of times, but it's never gone anywhere, and he still is like, someday it's gonna be me and Buffy, and if I could kill Angel, that would really help.
So twisted. And it does a nice little job of reminding us about, they are teenagers in high school dealing with, a couple of vampires that want to send the world into hell.
At the same time as finals week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That line at the beginning of the episode when Xander and Buffy are in this cemetery and they're kind of talking about Angel and whether or not Buffy's really ready to fight him. And Xander says something, are you really that anxious to come up against him? And Buffy makes the point. She's like, I want it over with. And then she's like, oh, we better go. I haven't even started studying for finals yet. Talking about fighting to the death basically with your ex-boyfriend into finals. And then when Buffy's contemplating what might happen if they're all sucked into hell.
Yeah, oh, so good.
And it's so funny. It's like, at least I won't have to take that chemistry final. Or maybe I'll be taking it forever. And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be worse. Yeah. That would be bad. But it's so nicely balanced in this episode. The seriousness of what they're facing with the levity of high school chemistry finals.
There's that amazing scene in the cafeteria, right, where Xander does his, fish stick theater, which is very cute. Oh, yeah. And Oz has a nice quippy line. And then Snyder comes in and, he's being a jerk. Ugh. And it's such a teenage scene, right? Cordelia's like, don't touch me, you have fish hands. And Willow is sitting on Oz's lap. And they're all drinking juice boxes and stuff. There's there's animal crackers on the table there. This is child food.
They're kids,
children.
And frickin' Principal Snyder. I wasn't aware that we had a chair shortage.
Is there a chair shortage? And Willow's I didn't read anything. Oh.
And I do love that Buffy called him out on the fact that he was talking about in a classroom. She's like, yeah, where they teach lunch. And I was like, thank you, Buffy, because he's just being ridiculous.
As Cordelia aptly put it, what did she call him? An impotent
Nazi.
Yeah.
With a bug up his butt the size of an emu, I believe that is also a very teenage sentence. Yeah. It's that scene that's a good one. Principal Snyder, I do have to mention this too, even though we did not cover this episode. Did you rewatch Go Fish?
Yeah, I did.
recently. Okay, so that scene where Buffy is in the car with one of the swimmers and he's like coming on to her, and so she, like, rightfully so, smashes his head into the steering wheel, I think, like, you know, protects herself, and then Snyder gets mad at her
but it was that's such a true moment, right? Like, it's getting better, I think, but the knee-jerk reaction of the patriarchy to a woman who's been sexually assaulted is always, well, what did you do to bring it on? You must have been dressed like a slut. You must have been in a place you shouldn't have been. You must have been drinking with somebody. You must have, like, there's all these things that women must have done wrong to get sexually assaulted. And, like, at no point does he turn to the swim team guy and be like, hey, keep your nose clean. Like, no comment at all.
I think that's when I decided that I no longer enjoyed him as a fun little antagonist figure to Buffy and the Scoobies. I was like, this guy's a dick. And we can talk more about it in the spoiler section, but he does, you know, mention, we've talked about it a couple times, where he seems to be more in the know than he lets on. And he references the mayor a few times in that episode. But he is obviously well connected and has it out for Buffy. And I did enjoy seeing Cordelia make that little impotent Nazi comment. I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. That encapsulates him.
That is Snyder.
I wish we had more Oz in this episode, though.
I always want more Oz. One of my favorite moments is when Giles is talking to the museum guy, and he says, they're talking about opening the box, and Giles is like, oh, I want to translate this runes on the outside, and the guy's like, you don't want to be surprised? And Giles is like, not as a rule, no. And first of all, that's like, no, you don't want to be surprised by an ancient tomb. And also it harkens back to the birthday party episode when he was like, I don't know about a surprise party. It seems like Buffy has enough stuff jumping out of the dark at her. Like, he's got a point. Like, surprises aren't really a good idea with the Slayer. Like, she might kill whoever surprises her.
Right? Because even if she, like, accidentally punches you in the face, or like
she could break your nose really easily.
She could just, or hit you in the temple, kill you instantly, like break your ribs, something. Like, I would not want to surprise a Slayer.
No.
I think he's had enough life experience too, where he's just like, no, let's not gamble on this.
Oh, you know what we haven't really talked about is the big theme of the episode, which we are hit over the head with several times by Whistler's narration. Which is, I mean, it's more setting up for the next episode, but he talks about, you know, you can't ever really be prepared for the big moments in life, and how you respond to them is who you are. That's where character is. It's not on whether or not you were ready for something to happen. You can never be ready. Like, Buffy could have never been prepared to find Kendra's body like that. And then, you know, it's just horrible.
It is nice, those bookends almost, his lines.
About the big moments. He says,
the beginning.
Here's the thing. There's moments in your life that make you, that set the course of who you're going to be. Sometimes they're little subtle moments. Sometimes they're not. I'll show you what I mean.
And it's true. Like, those little subtle moments that you don't know are going to have some big significance later on. And if anything, Buffy overall is all about being faced with, you know, changes and adversity and how you respond and adapt to it.
Constantly.
And that's why Buffy's a fighter and a survivor, because she is able to do that, we see over and over and over again. And, you know, the title of this, Becoming, for part 1 and 2, basically Buffy becoming the Slayer, becoming who she is. And gosh, it's so heavy when you really sit down and think about it.
And Angel has that whole ritual speech about how he's going to become, but that's a red herring. It's not about Angel. It's about Buffy and how she's going to rise to the occasion of this like horrible circumstance she's in at the end of the episode.
Oof. And that line he says towards the end, the big moments are going to come. You can't help that. It's what you do afterwards that counts. That's when you find out who you are. Like you were talking about, that's character. And, Buffy, we see her standing over Kendra's dead body and a police officer pointing a gun at her, telling her to freeze. Like that's a pretty significant moment.
It's a really big moment. Great cliffhanger.
Anytime.
Great cliffhanger.
Seriously. Excellent cliffhanger. Anytime they bring in cops and make it more real, like in Ted, I get so much more anxious. Because it's like, how are you going to get out of this? And same thing with Giles when he found Miss Calendar and the cops are there. In real life, I was like, what could he possibly say to them?
I know.
as an alibi.
And then they're like, oh, we just have a couple of questions, but then we're going to just let you leave. Like,
yeah, I was like,
there's no way. They would assume he was the murderer. And he would be hell-bent to get out of that police station that night.
Seriously. And it really is such a great cliffhanger because we saw how the cops treated Buffy the last time something went awry. And she's almost caught red-handed, essentially, in their eyes. So it's gonna be interesting.
It sure is. Oh, I love that we did get to see, we talked about this a little bit, but like Buffy's academic insecurity. It's a running theme on the show is that Buffy, doesn't think she's smart enough or gets good enough grades, and Willow is this like study nerd who gets perfect grades, and Buffy's sort of comparing herself to Willow, but Willow is right. Like, it's not that Buffy's not smart. It's that Buffy's focus is on Slayer things, and like she just does the minimum to get by in high school. And I love that Willow has seen that in Buffy, and that Willow doesn't have this need to be the only smart person. She's like, I could teach you this. You could learn it. Like, that's not the problem.
She does a good job of kind of building her up and snapping her into reality. It's just like, you have some really intense things going on that may be distracting you.
That might be pulling your focus from chemistry a little bit.
And Buffy is clever, capable, witty, smart. She just has to focus that energy on saving the world.
I don't know how she ever does any homework at all. I remember in high school that my homework load was like 5 or 6 hours a night. So how does she have time to patrol, to hang out with her friends, and do any homework? I also don't understand how Willow gets any homework done either, because it's still hours of work, no matter how smart you are.
Yeah. And I guess, assuming that Buffy is in standard academic level classes, it's still quite a course load. And at the very least, it's busy work that she would need to be doing, completing, different papers and assignments and things like that. But I guess I can suspend my disbelief with all of that. But I do like how Willow, she's clearly enjoying being a teacher.
Yeah.
And I like her voice of reason with Buffy. She does a good job at that.
It's like a tough love moment, right? Because she's like, if you're not going to do it, then don't waste my time. And Buffy's like, damn, girl. Like, okay.
Yep. Like, all right.
This is a dumb nitpick, but the library shelves are a joke. They are so not within health and safety code. Like, they're just like, they're so lightweight, and they have no bolt to the ground, to a wall, anything. And like, people just push them over and like, concuss people with them. It is ridiculous.
So easily. That is kind of difficult to watch every time it falls on Willow.
Yeah.
Like, all right, guys.
Also, when, was it last week when Jonathan and some other girl come in the library and Giles gestures up to that balcony area and he's like, 3rd row. And I'm like, there's no rows.
Yeah.
It's just a hodgepodge assembly of lightweight bookcases that are just asking to be knocked over.
Oh, gosh. That is so funny. It is very poorly designed. That school is just not safe. Those bookshelves and being on top of a hellmouth, like, it's just not good. Okay, so next we thought it'd be fun to go over some trivia and interesting facts about this episode. The first bit of trivia that we have makes me happy because I love these movies. This high school, the high school exterior that they use for Buffy's school in Los Angeles, is the same set as the famous clock from Back to the Future in 1985. So that clock tower scene, which is iconic if you've seen any of the Back to the Future movies, and I hope that you have. But I love that so much, and I think about that every time I watch this episode.
This is the second time in the series that a vampire is killed by immolation in sunlight. It's the immolation-ogram that is sent to the high school, which also makes no sense. Like, why would that vampire do it? But anyway,
seriously,
the first immolation death was the anointed one in School Hard. When Spike just is like, I'm done with this, and throws the guy up into the sunlight, but we don't get to see it on screen. So this was the first time they show it on screen.
Oh, man. And that stunt woman in particular who was set on fire for the vampiric immolation-ogram in this episode, her name is Cindy Fulkerson, and she has been set on fire more times than any other stunt woman in Hollywood, which must be quite an experience, gotta say.
Yeah, intense. I mean, I know they have all this protective gear and stuff to keep them from getting really burned, but there are accidents all the time.
Right?
Stunt people get hurt all the time.
Stunt people have a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Or just
a really low
the ability
sense of self-preservation.
Yeah. Or no anxiety either, because there is no way I would be able to talk myself into doing that. I have the opposite personality that you need to be.
That's why you're a lawyer, risk averse.
Yep. 100%.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper, a woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver? I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino-style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses, so don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
This brings us to the part of the episode where we talk about whether or not the episode still slays after all these years. So what do you think?
I mean, I still love this episode. There's little about it that remains problematic. There are a couple things, but whenever I watch Becoming Part 1 and Part 2, I just can't tear my eyes away from my screen. Yeah. It still is so captivating. And I think this two-parter is one of the best season finales, not only in Buffy, but in television. It's just such high stakes. It wraps up so many plot points and foreshadows so much more. And I love it. What about you?
It's so emotional. I also love this episode. It has, these iconic moments like the running shot and the hypnosis of Kendra that are like burned into my brain. It sets up season 3 beautifully. And I think that the show is really hitting its stride from a writing perspective. There's not a lot of like wasted moments or dialogue that doesn't quite make sense, except to Kathla. It's really like the quipping, the pacing, all of that stuff is now hitting sort of like classic Buffy levels, where we're going to go into season 3 and like almost every season 3 episode is this good.
Mm-hmm. Which is why we're covering all of them. It's true though. That's a good point. Like the quips and the banter back and forth is starting to really peak in their it's just very enjoyable.
I love it. We love it. All right, still slays.
Yep.
Let's
for sure
head on over to the Bronze for a quick drink and blooming onion. That's a spoiler. And see what some of our listeners have to say.
Bronze things. Things of bronze.
There was a piece of feedback that I didn't include because it seemed to be more about Becoming Part 2. So we'll read that one next week if that person is like, hey, why didn't they read my feedback? That's why.
Let's see. I'll start us off with Jolene Abbey. She said the look on her face when she realizes she's been set up and the slow motion run through the school still makes me panic, even though I know she doesn't get there in time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so tense.
Every single time. She also says, I've just finished the latest episode and I'm so happy you're doing all of series 3. Yay, I'm so glad you're happy. Most of my favorite episodes are in series 3, and one of my all-time favorite songs, and my favorite quotes. Fantastic. I hope you keep writing in, Jolene. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
I want to know what your favorite song and quote are.
Yeah.
So, let us know. We got a voicemail from the lovely Anwen.
Hey Slayers, it's Anwen here. Wow, it's all getting very real now, isn't it? This final 2 episodes of season 2. I love the flashbacks. It's really cool to see Angel's beginning and his backstory, except for his very, very bad wig. It's distracting to me. And that sparks a question for me. What is the deal with the vampire's hair in this Buffyverse? It's long. Angel's hair is long when he's turned, and then it's still kind of long and scruffy when he's in the alley. And then what happens? He cuts it and then it doesn't ever grow again. I guess that's the deal.
I've wondered that too.
I love when they are talking about trying to use Jenny's spell, and Willow says, I've just been researching the black arts for fun. And Giles says, channeling such potent magic could open a door you may not be able to close. Interesting. The other question I had was, why do vampires always want to unleash hell and end all humans? Don't they want to keep frolicking around being evil and have humans to feed on? I'm just not quite sure why they're so keen for the end of the world. Also, when they've taken the stone out of the out of the museum, where are Angel, Drew and Spike hiding out? I think I missed something. I'm not sure where that location is that they are at the moment. And finally, at the end, very sad, I think this show makes very good use of slow motion. There's a lot of shows now that you overuse it, TV shows and movies, but I think that they use it really well in this series, and with Buffy running in slow motion and finding Kendra was very moving. I thought Kendra lasted longer for some reason, but there you go. And I also thought that there was not very much blood, considering she was supposed to have bled out. There would have been a lot more blood on the floor, but I guess they have some ratings that they have to stick to. That's probably that. Anyway, can't wait till next week. Thank you for your awesomeness. Bye.
Bye, Anwen. The hair thing is interesting. Interview with a Vampire deals with it. Not in the first book, but I think in the second book, in the Vampire Lestat. He turns someone and they are like so happy to be, it's a woman, and she's so happy to be throwing off like the conventions of being a woman in like the 1800s or whenever it is, that she like cuts her hair really short like a boy, and then is horrified the next night that it has completely grown back. And that, so in that universe, in the Anne Rice vampire universe, whatever hair you had when you died is the hair you have. But I was like, she could just cut it every day and have a different style every day. Like, what is she so upset about?
That's true.
That's actually kind of awesome.
That is interesting, because you would think, your fingernails and your hair would stop growing if you're not technically alive anymore. But then again, how would vampires talk if they're not breathing?
Yeah. And how do they smell without breathing?
Yeah, most of that I'm like, okay, well.
Also, actually, your nails and your hair do grow for a little while after you die. Like,
see,
those processes keep going.
I said that one time. I asked to this one of the medical examiners on one of my cases, and apparently what he had said is that it gives the appearance of it because of all of the skin shrinking and different like chemical processes going on. And I was just like, wait, really? And he said that it's much more technical. He said a bunch of words that I cannot remember, but and I'm not going to, you can Google it. It's fascinating. But I remember when he said that, I was just like, that is so cool. I never would have thought about that. But there you go. Now we gave you all a fun little
post-death science there for you. Well, on that note, that will mark the end of the main section of the podcast.
Yay. So make sure and stay tuned for the Watcher's Diaries if you want to hear the spoilery discussion, and we definitely have some things to talk about.
Do. If you'd like to join the conversation, like Jolene and Anwen did, then you can find all our contact information at podcastica.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/podcastica. And if you haven't joined the Facebook group, it's a pretty great group of people. Just the regular Podcastica group doesn't cost any money, and people post about like interesting news about upcoming shows, and we post our spoiler threads where people can comment for each episode. Also news about like, if there's an episode of the podcast that's going to be postponed or something like that, that's where you could find out about it.
It is a very active Facebook group. I will say there are a few Facebook groups I'm a part of for different, podcasts or interests or things like that. And I think the Podcastica groups are the most active ones that I've come across. So it's a good time and everyone in there's great. So there's something for everyone. And keep in mind that you can also write in or record a voice message, and you can find links to our social media pages, including those Facebook pages and all of our other shows at podcastica.com.
There are so many podcasts at Podcastica, and so many of them are absolutely excellent. I just got through binging back episodes of Strange Indeed because, as we talked about last time, I watched Midnight Mass and I'm obsessed. And so I had to listen to Rima and Pake's discussion of Midnight Mass. And they did an amazing job of dealing with all of the sort of touchy religious themes of that show in a direct, like gentle and thoughtful way. It was really good listening. I didn't think I was going to blast through their entire coverage in a week, but I did.
They're easy to binge. Yeah. Rima and Pake I love all of our Podcastica shows, but Strange Indeed is one that I could listen to for a very long time.
And they cover all the Netflix shows, so they've probably covered a show that, you love. I really enjoyed their coverage of You. Sweet Tooth. They're still covering Fall of the House of Usher. There's just a lot on Strange Indeed. It's a really great podcast. Yep. And then, they're doing a Walking Dead rewatch on The Cast of Us. That's been a lot of fun.
I'm loving that. I know that some of you, we mentioned this last time, Penny and I basically have met because of the Cast of Us, the Walking Dead cast, the original podcast that started Podcastica. Jason went on and started this whole network, and he and Lucy covering The Walking Dead from the very beginning has been so nostalgic and so much fun. So if you are a fan of The Walking Dead, or if you have, just started getting into it, that would be a great one to listen to, for
really
sure.
Recommend it. I also, after I watched Midnight Mass and was obsessed with it, I decided my next Mike Flanagan would be Midnight Club, which isn't as well written or as deep, but it's really interesting, and it was a real sort of glimpse of what Fall of the House of Usher would be, because he similarly took one writer's work and sort of intermixed and went off from it in a way that was really cool. But it might appeal to people who like Buffy because it's a show about teenagers dealing with heavy issues of life and death and some supernatural aspects, and it's a lot about their internal feelings. You have to kind of be into Mike Flanagan's style. There's lots of monologuing.
Yeah. I enjoyed that one. I think I liked The Midnight Club more than a lot of people who are into Mike Flanagan. I think the series may have felt a little bit younger for some, but it scared me more than, some of his other films and series, and it's pretty poignant, I think. And while there is only one season, if you are considering watching it, just so you know, in a very rare move, he came out and explained basically what the second season would have consisted of. So even though it's canceled after one season, it is not going to leave you unsatisfied, because you get to find out what happened. So I think that is a big plus if you're a completionist, like many of us are.
And if you like what you're hearing, hit like, hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever is the word on your platform. Throw us a review or a rating, and 5-star ratings are our favorites. And it helps other listeners find us. You could also tell people about us.
What else was I going to say? Oh, yeah. And if you don't already follow us on Instagram, definitely give us a follow over there at Still Slaying Cast. There is some excellent Buffy content on Instagram. There are so many active fan accounts for people that still love Buffy and post all the time. The actors and cast members from Buffy are fairly active on Instagram, so definitely give that a look if you have an Instagram account or create one. And stay tuned next time, where we will be covering the season 2 finale, episode 22, Becoming Part 2.
Thanks, everybody. And let me guess. Someone pulls out a sword?
The demon wakes up and wackiness ensues.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Are you struggling to lose weight and keep it off? Tired of wasting time and money on starvation diets that lead to more frustration and stress? If there was a weight loss solution that could actually work for you, would you try it? Then head to Golo.com.
I'm Steve. I lost 138 pounds in 9 months on Golo.
I'm Amber. I've lost 128 pounds with Golo.
If you're ready to take back control of your life, head to Golo.com now and see how Golo can work for you. That's Golo.com.
My sleep is way better. My the inflammation has gone way down. Golo saved my life. I was way overweight. That's what sent me down the path. I wanted to make sure and live for my kid.
I have literally tried everything. I was on the verge of getting gastric bypass surgery, and I saw the Golo commercial, and it was the last thing I tried because it worked.
Join over 2 million people who found a better way to lose weight with Golo. Your healthier and happier life begins at Golo.com. That's GOLO.com. Again, GOLO.com.
All right, that is the end of the non-spoiler section. So if you don't want to hear the spoilers, you should stop listening now. And that brings us to the Watcher's Diaries.
It's too bad we can't sneak a look at the Watcher Diaries. I'm sure it's full of fun facts to know and tell.
Yeah, that's too bad. That stuff is private.
Also, Giles keeps them in his office, in his personal files.
Most importantly, it would be wrong.
And we can now talk as many spoilers as we want. Like, I have a whole new view on Whistler and his mission to, like, set Angel on his path. Now that I've seen all of Angel, and we learned that a lot of the powers that be and the prophecies are, like, fake, or they have a nefarious agenda. And so I'm like, is Whistler actually a good guy? Or is he a bad guy who's here to send Angel on this specific path because they want Angel to be part of the apocalypse, but also because whoever the goddess is, I don't think we ever learned her name, wants to be born. And so Angel has to have his soul and then like have sex with Darla. There's a whole thing. And so I'm always like,
all set into motion.
I'm like, is Whistler actually good or part of the agenda, or does he not know he's part of an agenda?
Yeah, he could be a pawn. I tend to think that he was just kind of quote unquote following orders, so to speak. Yeah. He knew what he had to do and that there was a reason for it, but there's no way he was privy to, I love the powers that be.
I use that phrase all the time, and it's amazing to me how many people don't understand what I mean when I say it. Like, I used to use it at work to mean like the executives, right? Like, oh, well, the powers that be decided that we're going to launch that product in the spring and not the fall. And people would be like, the power, what? And I'd be like, how do you not understand that phrase? It's so perfect. But I guess because I am a Buffy and Angel fan. And they use it all the time.
It's so
in
applicable.
Angel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it's clever in Angel. I like that. The one thing... This episode just makes me flash forward to being angry at Xander in season 3. Once, we see Kendra die, and we know in season 3 that is what essentially awakens Faith. That is what calls Faith into, her destiny as the Slayer. And that this argument about whether or not to kill Angel, where we see Xander's jealousy come through and he's all for killing Angel, reminds me of his assumption that Angel has gone evil again in season 3. And Faith is all amped up and they get each other all eager to go and try to kill Angel, and it drives me crazy every single time. And so I think part of my anger that I feel,
it's like future anger,
Xander. Yeah, I'm just like, I know where this goes, and it does not make me happy. But the flashbacks, that was something I had to stop myself from bringing up.
There are so many more flashbacks to come in when we get to Angel.
I love them.
And they're so fun. Eventually, we're going to get to see Spike's origin story, which is my favorite of all the flashbacky scenes.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. More of Darla in the future, more of Drusilla, all of them. And I would be game to just watch like a whole series that's like the early days of Angel and Drusilla and Darla.
Yes.
Like that seems like that would be a really fun show.
It's fascinating. That one, what is it? I think, is it Orpheus in Angel?
Oh, is that the one when Faith drugs him?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
And they go back through his...
That's a great one.
Oh, yeah. And we get to see what happens between the curse and the 90s, and it is so interesting.
It's so good. Like, all of the flashback episodes are up there in probably my 10 favorite episodes of the series, because I just think they're so fascinating.
Definitely a lot of bad wigs in them, though. Like, Onwin is correct.
Oh, yeah.
The wig was not great.
And even Spike, when, good old William the Bloody, his wig is pretty terrible. Although I think his accent is better than Angel's Irish accent.
Yeah, he is. And he's sort of models himself on like a Sid Vicious kind of character. I think that his accent is an affectation, because in the flashbacks, he has a little bit more of a gentle, higher class accent, and his current day accent is very like harsh and very intentionally sort of Sid Vicious-ish.
Oh yeah. Gosh, and this episode, it's hard to keep track sometimes of how many little references there are here and there that end up coming back in the future. And it's the same thing in, Becoming Part 2. But it is, I believe this is Darla's first appearance. I just lost my train of thought.
It's the first time we've seen her since
we see her die.
Yeah, she dies in Angel, episode 7 of season 1. And this is the first time that she came back, or that we ever even thought that we might see her again, right? Like,
right. And I love that she is back, because I find Darla fascinating. And Julie Benz in general, I think she's fantastic as an actress, but I think she does a particularly good job playing Darla. And most of this comes into play in the series Angel.
Oh, yeah. Her arc on Angel is amazing.
It's fantastic. And I get so excited every time I see her in this episode because of what's to come. And seeing just like, I don't know what she just kind of oozes sexuality.
Yeah.
And the way that she transforms Angel, just like cutting right above her chest and just like shoving him basically into her boobs. I was like, well, no wonder he was like, all right, I'll try this. There's blood.
Whatever.
Okay.
I get to put my face in some boobs.
It's like, all right. But it fits his, it fits who he was at that point in time to a T as well. But I don't know. The callbacks that they do in this show are pretty fantastic. Finally getting to see Buffy and Willow find the floppy disk that dropped in slow-mo.
after 3 episodes of being like, are they ever going to find the disc? Yeah.
It's like, I don't have a memory of watching the end of this season live when it was first airing. I know I saw that Go Fish episode when it first aired, but I cannot imagine how frustrating it must have been to go from, this huge, like, powerful episode and then jump immediately to Buffy being in the hospital and nothing really happening, and then immediately go to a backstory of a teacher and a student relationship and nothing really driving forward. And then an episode about sea monsters where nothing really happens. So it's nice that now it's streaming and you can
just
watch them all
buzz through all of those. The curse that curses Angel comes up again and again. And I have not dead yet not of the living, spirits of the interregnum I call, just like permanently in my head. I'm ready. I'll back up Willow on doing some spells. I'm ready for that.
Willow getting into some dark magic.
Yeah.
It's also super exciting.
What's to come with Willow and magic is just like nonstop excellence. There's so much fun stuff ahead of us.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Every time there's like a little reference to her being a witch. It's like, this is fantastic. Like, is it
coming?
Am I imagining it? Did it already happen, or is that in season 3? It may be in season 3 where she finds herself and Oz these little Pez dispensers,
Oz finds them.
And once That's right. And one's a wolf and one's a little witch. And it's so cute. Like, I just... That storyline is gonna be pretty fantastic to cover. So anytime we get little hints at Willow's witchcraft, it's definitely fun.
I've been reading some of the Buffy comics. I had no idea how many of them there are. So I knew that when the series ended that it continued in what's called season 8, and it's like the comic books that just pick up the story. And then Angel also continued after it ended as a comic book. And I knew that there were a few other one-offs. I was not prepared when I did a search on Amazon for the very, very many different Buffy comic series that there are. They're all over the place. There are some that are set in the future. There are some that are set in an alternate universe. There's a reboot where we start from the beginning and Buffy starts high school again and meets Xander and Willow for the first time. And in that one, Kendra is like a real character and has some personality and stuff. I subscribed to, there's a thing called Comixology. I read on my iPads. It's perfect for comic books to read on the iPad.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Comixology has a like an unlimited subscription, and you can get there's so many comics that are available under the subscription. And so I'm only reading the Buffy ones that are part of the subscription. I'm not reading the ones you have to pay for separately right now. But they have a 30-day free trial if anybody wants to try it out.
Ooh.
And read a few
I might have to
Buffy
do that.
comics. There's also a lot of Marvel comics that are free on there. And there's a ton of content available on Comixology. And if you have an iPad, that is really the ideal way to read comics. You can zoom in to pictures and see the detail and then zoom back out really easily. And, the colors are vibrant if you're reading on your iPad. It's pretty entertaining.
That sounds cool.
I really like it.
Yeah, I may have to check that out. Give myself something to read before I go to bed.
Yeah.
Wind down or something like that. That would be cool.
Yeah.
But the Buffyverse is just so expansive.
There's so much. There's novels
so much out there.
And you know what? Are there any Buffy video games? I'm sort of surprised.
I bet there. Now I'm going to Google it. Buffy video game. There has to be. What is that? The Quest for Oz? That popped up. So there are 6 video game adaptations of the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer that have been released. In 2000, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the video game, was released on Game Boy Color. I think I still have my Game Boy Color somewhere. 2002, there was Buffy the Vampire Slayer released on Xbox. 2003 on Game Boy Advance, Buffy the Vampire Slayer Wrath of the Darkhold King. 2003, there are lots of these. 2004 there's a mobile game that seems to be the most popular, The Quest for Oz. And then 2009, a Nintendo DS Buffy the Vampire Slayer Sacrifice horror video game. Interesting.
I don't have...
Oh, Rob S. Hotel wrote the story for the game.
Cool. I don't have any video game consoles except I still have a circa 1984 Atari 2600.
That's fantastic. Does it work?
I think so. It's been a while since I've been able to hook it up to my TV because I don't have the right kind of adapter to go from an Atari to my, relatively recent.
Yeah, I guess that could be
HD
kind
TV.
of tricky.
Yeah. But I have
cool.
about 20, 25 games as well. And it's a collector's item. I met this guy at a flea market. I was talking to him about it, and he was like, if you ever want to sell, here's my card, here's my personal number, here's another copy of my card.
Wow.
Like, he was very excited about the idea, so.
I wonder how much that's worth.
Not that much on eBay. Just like $150 or something. It's not.
When you take it to like is that too recent for an Antiques Roadshow?
I saw a meme on somewhere recently, and it was like that feeling when Antiques Roadshow has someone showing Pokemon cards. And I was like, And it was an image from Antiques Roadshow, and this person had brought in like a bunch of Pokemon cards, and I've never felt so old.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
It was pretty funny.
There's some joke on, I can't remember what I was watching. It was about Pogs, which is, very, very short time period, I guess, in the 90s, but that sent me back.
Yeah.
I was like, holy crap.
I'm a little too old for that.
Pokemon? Yeah, I think I was in elementary school with Pogs. That was kind of fun. I did have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer slammer for my Pogs, and I was super happy about that.
Holy crap. I don't have a lot of Buffy merchandise, but I do have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer board game that was a joke Christmas present from, I think, my brother, and it's unplayable. Like, I have tried so hard to learn the rules and set up the board and play this game, and it's just unplayable. So someday I'm going to make it into art.
That sounds fair. The only thing I really want now, I have water bottle stickers, like that little drawing that's our podcast out. The Buffy Will Patrol Tonight.
Yeah, I love that drawing.
From that episode too. Anyway, so I have that, and then I need a Sunnydale High School sweatshirt. That is the next thing on my list. And my high school, they call with Sunnydale is SHS. My high school also was SHS. So I have a couple of things that look like,
but they're not actual Sunnydale sweatshirts.
But they're not.
I always wanted a UC Sunnydale sweatshirt, because I feel like people really wouldn't know. They'd just think I went to a UC school.
That's the thing. I want that, Etsy has some excellent subtle merch like that, where if somebody recognizes it, that they know exactly what.
That's a real fan.
Yeah, it's like, all right.
Yeah. There's nothing that frustrates me more than a cool graphic t-shirt or toy or whatever the merchandise is, and then they've got the name of the property plastered on it for no good reason.
I know.
It's like, you didn't need to do that. There's a Christmas ornament version of the dude from The Big Lebowski that's for sale right now that just came out, and I call them nerdaments. I have all these nerdy Christmas ornaments, and it says The Big Lebowski on the bottom of it. I'm like, I don't want that on my tree.
What's the point? I saw I think it was on your Facebook page or something, where you had posted either a new ornament or shared something or liked something. I don't know. Somehow it came up on my Facebook news feed, and it inspired me, now that I am the only person living in my house and I have complete control over Christmas decorations, to just start putting up all of my super nerdy ornaments that I've collected over the years instead of pretty ornaments. So I'm kind of pumped about that. I might have to get a couple Buffy ones. I bet there are good ones on Etsy. I would like to know, anybody listening, if you have any unique or, favorite Buffy merch.
Send us
love
pictures
to see that. Sure.
There are official Buffy ornaments of the whole gang, and they are a style that I find very off-putting. It's like a bust, and they have no arms. So it's from the waist up, and they have no arms, and it just makes them look like...
I just Googled it.
They look like victims of some kind of horrible accident, and not... It's horrible. I won't buy those.
Why do they have, partial shoulders and,
right? They all look like they've been, through something, like an amputation machine.
Seriously. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, those are not going on my tree.
That's funny. That's fair. I support that.
All right, that's enough tangents. I think we can wrap things up. That's the complete end of our show. Thank you guys for listening, if you've made it this far. And until next time, I'm Penny.
And I'm Kara.
Keep slaying.